Hey guys, welcome to our weekly star mission. Tonight's mission is going to be Sweet. Before we get started, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to read off a couple announcements. First one, if you guys want to help us, thanks. Annually, we run this huge sci-fi convention called Starfest. You might have heard of it. It's exciting, but it's a lot of planning and a lot of work to set up. So if you want to come help us, we do have weekly missions where we put it together, and it's kind of a good time. It's good for your resume, and we'd appreciate any help that you can lend. So we meet up Sundays, 1 to 3 in Clark E? Clark A. So like right over in that direction. Next announcement. If that doesn't float your boat, if you're feeling more of the immediate creative and not the long-term creative, there is PR committee. We meet up weekly as well. Tuesdays, 5 to 7 in SAU 1000, so kind of below us right now. We meet up, we make posters, we plan on making some videos at some point potentially, possibly doing skits up here during the announcements potentially. It's a good time. Memes happen, you can get points to win prizes, and it also looks beautiful on a resume. So yeah, if you want to help out there, you can go to, again, SAU 1000, Tuesdays, 5 to 7. Okay. Next up, if you guys want to run a mission like this, if you think that there's some niche area of sci-fi that you think you could give an entire presentation about, we'd love to hear it. We have a website, in fact, that you could submit your idea. It's called ihaveanidea.ritstar.com. I don't think we have a slide for it. Yeah. Take my word for it, though. If you submit your idea there, then we could potentially approve it, and you might even get a chance to present it in front of STAR next semester. So yeah, that could be a good time. Let's see. 6 years after the events of Wreck-It Ralph, Ralph and Vanellope, now friends, discover a Wi-Fi router in their arcade, leading them into a new adventure. Star's gonna go see Wreck-It Ralph 2. Ralph wrecks the internet. That one. Look at the gift. Yeah, that's gonna be a good time. We're going to see it Friday. If you want to come see it with us, we're carpooling. We're meeting in the SAU hall over there at 5:30 this Friday. If you want to lend a hand with carpooling, go ahead, jump onto Slack. And then just add a little car emoji in the away mission drivers channel, and we'll know exactly what that means. So yeah, 5:30 SAU. Membership. If you want to become a member of STAR, you can do so for the low price of $6 a semester or $10 for an entire year. If you want to buy a t-shirt, we have stylish t-shirts. Whoa, look at that. It's probably Cameron, right? Like the art, you think? The arm here looks distinctly like Cameron. I don't know. Maybe you're right. You can get one of these t-shirts, whether or not this is from the model on the website or Cameron, for $15 a pop. Or if you're a member, you get to save $5 and it's only $10. Maybe. Yeah. Also, if you're feeling thirsty at any point during this mission, we have sodas in that fridge over there. They're $1 a pop, and we have 4 fantastic flavors. We have Covenant Coke, Plasma Pistol Pepsi, Spartan Sprite, and one single lonely can of Coke Zero Cherry all on its own. Yeah, so if at any point you want to pay for any of these things, I'm going to be sitting over there. I will take your money. And it'll, the money from the sodas actually goes to, that's right, it goes to the ALS Association in honor of Stephen Hawking, who passed away earlier. Yes. Thank you, random star member. Now, final thing, we are actually holding election tonight. We're holding nominations tonight. I'm so good at remembering details.
All right, I'm gonna pull this up for a second. Oh, I can't do that? Okay.
Nope, there's a button on that.
Woo! It's slow. All right. So, the thing with the elections, so starts in kind of a funny place right now. As of next semester, I'm going to be going overseas, and our ops officer will also be, and our captain will be unable to be around due to personal and professional stuff that they have to do. So we're going to be having a special election on next week for captain, first officer, and ops. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to explain briefly what the responsibilities of each of these are, and if you or anyone you know would like to run for one of these positions, just let me know their name. If they're not here, that's still okay. We'll just get in contact with them and get their okay. But just, make sure that they'll be okay with it. So the first thing we're going to be doing is captain. The head honcho captain is the guy that's in charge or girl that is in charge, or NB person who is in charge of everything. They're in charge of making sure that everyone's jobs get done. They're in charge of not in charge of communicating with other clubs, but they're in charge of of making sure that all that stuff happens. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of thought, but it's a really important job. It's a really fun job if you have the passion for it. So anyone can be nominated for captain. Does anyone have any nominations for captain? I don't think Ava would be willing to, but I will ask. I'll put her down and ask her. That's fair.
Given her declination to continue serving as captain, although the circumstances are different.
I will say that she hasn't accepted a nomination, but I will put her down as someone to check back with.
Yeah.
I think that sounds like a thing that we could do. Yeah. I'll just put her down for captain, but I'll ask her about anything.
Yeah, it'll be flexible.
So I have a question. Yeah. Because of we have fewer than most.
There will be a call on the Slack for people you will be able to nominate people in Slack if you feel like.
Because I don't think we're nominations.
Yeah, no. This is just a quick run through now before we get started. I would like to nominate Hammer for captain.
I wasn't sure if we needed to do it here or not, but yeah.
You accept?
So
Yeah, for sure.
Hammer can't exactly run two positions unless you want to.
Well, yes.
I don't. I very much do not.
So anyone can run.
It would create a vacancy in my place, and then I'd get to fill it with.
Yeah, the bridge crew is able to select anyone to fill in a position below captain. Yeah.
To appoint someone or take nominations for those.
So if a bridge crew member gets promoted, then in this election, then the bridge crew will just appoint someone else to fill that vacancy. Just to save us time. So any more nominations for captain? All right, cool. First officer. First officer is the captain's second in command. They will help out the first officer, or they will help out the captain with doing all of the in-charge things that the captain does. They're also in charge of reserving rooms and events for Star, which is, not an intensive job, but it's still an important one. And they are also, as I found out, responsible for taking over the duties of the captain when the captain is unable to do so. So do we have any nominations for captain, or not for captain, for first officer? Yes. All right. Do you accept?
Sure. Why not? I'm also gonna nominate my good buddy Logan.
All right.
If you're doing the whole nomination.
Can we put on the side, just like whatever position she wants?
Sure.
Just because, like,
Actually,
I don't want to put in
do?
the. There we go. I like that.
There. Okay. Anything else for first officer? Cool. No. Justin's not a student, so no.
What about the can of Cherry Zero? That's been there for us the whole time.
Veto. Motive.
Darn.
So ops. The thing with ops is the treasurer. They're in charge of handling the money, making sure that our expense forms get filled out, approved, making sure that everyone on bridge crew is financially certified. They're in charge of handling the money, storing the money, reporting the money, doing everything to do with the money. That's going to be a big job come Starfest time, which is going to be next semester. So this is going to be a really important job to do for us to have someone good on. Do we have any nominations for ops?
I would like to nominate Aaron.
Awesome.
Awesome.
That's 3.
Aaron.
Yeah. I would like to nominate. I'd like to nominate Matthew Drace.
Oh yeah. Yeah, why not? Matt could do that. Should we check in with them or?
Yeah, we should check in with Aaron and Matthew and Logan and Eva.
Yeah, I'm going to change the format by changing the color.
All right, cool. Do we have any more? Yeah? Sure. Cool. Excuse me.
So, do you accept? Nice.
Okay, cool. So, are these your nominations for now? Is that going to be it? All right, cool. Hammer, I'd like you to write these down on a wave, and we will. Yep. And now that we're only a half an hour into we're only 7:30. We can call up Michael Cooper and Michael Farlow for our. for the actual mission that we were supposed to be having today.
National elections are going to be happening.
Yes, the actual elections are going to be happening next Monday during the mission, at the start of the mission. You can vote, but only if you're a paid member. So if you haven't bought that membership, do so if you want to vote in the election. Now, without further ado, okay. Hello. Oh, wait. Just go this way. This is slow. All right. Welcome to the ring world of Halo. So, for this, yes, Zach.
No, this works.
These are rings. They're different.
Is this the ring world from 9 minutes ring world?
You're a missionary. Yeah. Sometimes. I mean, in that they are ring shaped. Yes. So, the way this is going to work is we're going to do just sort of like a brief 101 sort of mission for Halo. We'll be talking a lot about the games, a little bit about the story. Really, there's so much to talk about for Halo that we could probably do a whole semester's worth of missions, but we're not going to do that. So, yes. So, Halo is the story of John Halo, and as he travels the universe with his girlfriend Cortana. But as they go through and destroy space aliens because they doesn't afraid of anything. So a little bit more actual Halo. We'll find we're gonna talk about who you'll meet on your journey, the big green. First up is going to be the UNSC. They're just the U.S. Marines. It's supposed to be like a UN sort of thing, like 500 years in the future, but they're just the U.S. Marines. They use U.S. Marine like rankings.
There is a UN in the
United Nations Security Council.
Also,
the United Nations Space.
fun fact, all right, not really that fun, but a thing that happened, the BBC at one point was trying to get a logo for the United Nations Security Council and put this in a news broadcast while talking about the actual real UN. It wasn't this one.
It didn't say the spaceman. Yeah, it just had like a golden eagle with UNSC on it.
It was this logo is the point.
It looked legitimate.
If you didn't know it was a thing from a Halo, it could be believable.
So the UNSC are also hopelessly corrupt. They have this secret police force called the Office of Naval Intelligence, and they exist to be a Patriot Act criticism and a CIA criticism, and boy, are they heavy-handed with it. They bullied colonists into accepting an authoritarian government. And yeah, which leads to revolts, which leads to widespread chaos, and it's a good time. They also are still using 7.62 millimeters in their millimeter rounds in their assault rifles, despite being 500 years in the future. Okay, but like 500 years later, and they're still using ammunition from World War II. Fair.
We have guns that are designed for World War II.
Yeah.
So,
That's not 500. Well,
It's 50 years, not 500.
well, we have like the context of Bungie shot.
we're not using swords as our main form of warfare.
Anyway,
It works for many purposes.
so these are the Spartans. These are the important guys. They're the supreme soldiers. They were kidnapped.
John Halo, White Halo.
There's John Halo. There's Fred Halo. There's Kelly Halo, and there's Linda Halo. So they were all kidnapped as 6-year-olds, and they were fitted with cybernetic augmentation
And
genetic
injected with a bunch
augmentation.
of shit.
Yeah, and half of their friends all died, but they're here. They're cool. That's what they do. They're also irreparably psychologically damaged from being kidnapped and tortured as children. Because that's what happened.
I forget, one of the books does say how much they can lift, and it's like an absurd
Well, the Mjolnir
Yes.
weighs almost 1,000 pounds.
Yeah.
Well, the Mjolnir armor weighs 1,000 pounds itself, but they aren't lifting that armor because that armor is a power armor.
Yeah.
Like,
So
I want to say it was in tons. Like, legitimately. Like,
especially in the
it's at least 1 ton. In Mjolnir armor, yeah, it's probably 2 tons.
I just remember there's a part where with a young teenage John Halo. Well, just before that, it's like he's lifting like 500 pounds, like this little right, and he cranks it up to like 700, and he goes perfect. And it's just like what? And it's like 16-year-old John.
Kelly Halo here is famous for being the fastest Spartan, where without power armor, she's capable of reaching top running speeds of 35 miles per hour.
That's one more of Captain America.
Probably.
I don't want to put race between Kelly and.
And as we learned in Halo the Flood, they fired controlled 3-round bursts from their NA-5B assault rifles. That was a very important detail in that book. In case you didn't catch it the first time, they tell it to you again. And again. And again.
I read half of that novel and gave up.
Yeah, no, they're also super bad. These guys are cool. There's also like a few. There's like multiple series of Spartans. These guys are Spartan 2s, but there's Spartan 3s afterwards. They were just like assembly line soldiers, and then there's Spartan 4s, which are like, technology's improved, so let's just make copies of these guys, except not irreparably emotionally scarred.
Are Spartan 2 still better than Spartan 4s?
It's Spartan in armor, they're equal, but out of armor, Spartan 2s are strong.
And also Spartan 4, it seems that the Spartan 4 later or Spartan 2 started taking that very.
Yeah, it's the thing with the Spartan 4s was that they were picked up out of soldiers that were already soldiers and were already like strong and proven in battle.
And Spartan 1s were a prototype, which are weird.
Yeah, that's the Orion Project. I don't actually know a whole lot about that one.
I only know someone.
Yeah. But we have the Covenant. the Covenant are religious zealots. Their whole shtick is that they worship the ancient species that came before and all their technology, and they believe that that technology will lead them to what they call the Great Journey. They're also hopelessly corrupt because they're the bad guys. They have to be. Their religious leaders are lying to them the whole time, and it's a fun ride. And they managed to stop humanity from killing itself in the insurrections by making them kill the Covenant instead. So it's a fun thing. It made the authoritarian government of Earth manage to keep its hold on the colonies before the Covenant killed them all.
Thing to note, the Spartans were actually made to fight rebels, which is kind of really messed up if you think about it. Because like they pump all this drugs into like 10-year-olds to like sometimes younger to like fight rebels, and they're all badasses. They go like 2 tons, and they're fighting literally people with freaking whatever they can find. And but when these guys came around, that's
It honestly makes you think that maybe the person that started the program might have had some insight.
what about their Halsey, though?
Like they got like a real transmission somewhere and decided, let's not kill them. Like, I mean, it's believable, but like, that hasn't been confirmed.
I could see something weird about their Halsey, though.
Yeah, Halsey is shit. But that's kind of speculation.
That explained why Cortana knows so much about the. I mean, yeah, but like, even in Halo 1, they like kind of imply that the Covenant's not kind of still alien. Whatever.
They also got a hierarchical structure. It's very, top down, and it's organized by species. And go to the next.
I think the next, yeah. So these are like the top guys. They're totally not Palpatine rebels at all. They go whoosh in their chair. They're the leadership of the Covenant and are lying to like everyone. They convince the rest of their alien species that by activating the Halo rings, which totally don't wipe out everything in life in the entire universe or anything, just the Great Journey will commence. And they don't really, the Great Journey is kind of this weird thing that's like kind of hand wavy, but yeah.
So the idea of the Great Journey was, for the record, the prophets didn't know that Halo was going to kill them. They didn't know that.
I know. It's more fun with them. Totally not going to kill everyone.
Because I think you decide on it. Awesome. So the thing with the Great Journey was that the prophets and the elites, the prophets discovered some ancient text from the foreign race that said that they were going to basically it didn't tell them anything, but what they gathered from it was that this was made by a super advanced ancient species, and they disappeared somehow. What they found from one of the constructs was that this was because of something called Halo. They were caused by these like green worlds called Halo. And they figured that activating Halo would, they knew that activating Halo would cause them to meet the same fate as the Forerunners. And they figured that meant that they were enlightening themselves and going on this great journey into ascension, into godhood. It's a fun little time.
Yeah. The next people on the rung below of the prophets are the Sanghali, if I'm pronouncing it right. Sanghili. They're elites. Everyone knows them as elites. And they're most of the like generals in the Covenant military. I don't know if they are directly influenced, like inspired by feudal Japan, but I've always got feudal Japan vibes from them in a lot of their culture. They're very honor bound, very much like if I like fight and I die, I fight for that I gained honor in battle. And yeah, like I have no idea, but every time like I'm reading like a thing that like in the novels that's like elite focused, I'm like, I'm thinking of feudal Japan right now. Eventually in the video games, they kind of leave the Covenant. It's weird. I don't want to get too into that. Spoilers, but yeah.
This mission isn't spoiler safe. We're gonna be like talking about the actual plot of the games. The books we're not going through. There's not enough time to.
Another like quick thing. These things were like one of the more scary things in Halo 1. Not the scariest, but one of. And as time went on, they're not as scary, kind of from a game design perspective. Like in the first one, none of them even speak English. It's only in Halo 2 that the Covenant even starts speaking English, but these guys are the main ones you hear in their weird alien language. So,
but like they stand tall, their arms are sleek, angled, and really.
There's also a bunch of stuff with like their armor and how they chose it, which is also part of the reason why I get Japan vibes.
For context, the original Halo had really good AI. You could actually see them using some form of tactics.
They do point to, like towards their minions to like take cover and stuff. And,
yeah, so those guys are very overly commanders.
Yeah, these are the brutes, which are a recent addition to the Covenant, and aren't actually. They're not in Halo 1 at all. They're only in recent. When I say recent, I mean like past a while.
It says in the manual that the brutes were a recent addition to the Covenant, but they were actually added to the Covenant in. Oh god, it was at least a few hundred years.
Yeah, but for the most part, like compared to all the rest of them, they are the most recent addition. So recent is in air quotes, but they are the most new to the Covenant. But so they're not actually in Halo 1. They end up kind of replacing them in later games. But the biggest thing about them is that they have a rival with the Sanghali elites. And like gameplay wise, they act very similar to elites, but they're distinctly different and have different weapons. And they're more instead of it being like honor bound, they're more like ruthless and they're not necessarily not tactical, but they're definitely more aggressive in their approach.
The elites are the honor part of the what is the name of that species in Star Trek?
Klingon?
Yeah, but they are the honorable thing of the brutes are currently
Yeah, that is fair.
They kind of go into a little bit more in the book Contact Harvest, where there's a group that there's like a group vessel that a lot of the book takes place on, and there's a bunch of like little asides about how the brutes were just mistreated and looked down on by the elites a lot, like how they gave, but at the time of Contact Harvest, there was only one brute ship captain in the entirety of the Covenant, and they gave him a really crappy ship because they're looked down on. But that brute, to get back at them, took out all of the elevators in the ships and replaced them with ladders, which the elites can't climb because their knees bend backwards. So he did it just to make them mad.
From what I know, a lot of the reason the elites hate brutes is just their kind of outlook. Yeah, they view them as brutes. I think that's not necessarily where the nickname comes from, but like that's definitely part of it. Because that being said, isn't the first appearance of a brute in the video games from Arbiter's perspective?
Yes.
Yeah.
But so I wouldn't be surprised if in their language they're still called brute. It would make sense with how the elites look down on them. So yeah. But also we're not going through every single alien race in the Covenant. I'm just going through the bigger ones, more important ones in terms of you're more likely to see them. Like there's a but
yeah. These guys are jackals. They're just scavengers. They have a big. They're actually the only species in the Covenant, or that fights with the Covenant, that is not actually a part of the Covenant. The jackals are mercenaries that are paid by the Covenant to fight for them. So as a result, they have their own ships, they have their own crew members, they have their own people, and they get money and they're on their own agenda. So they're pretty low in the hierarchy as a result because they're not actually a part of faith in the Alliance.
another screenshot. Okay. So yeah, these are my favorite ones. So yeah, so these are grunts. They are actually the garbage lowest tier in the military. But so these are actually quotes they say sometimes. That one's a very specific thing, but if you as Master Chief went up to one, they'll shout this. And if you shoot, like they just fly around. Sometimes if you hit them in the right place, they're kind of silly. So if you shoot the pack, they fly around because they're small little things.
It's all fun and games, but one of them starts with 2 grenades.
True. They do kamikazes. We were talking earlier. There's a book that I didn't finish. One of the books that I didn't finish earlier. The best part of that book was one of them goes rogue, but it's like he thinks he's actually succeeding in doing this grand scheme. Like, yes, I'm gonna ruin the Covenant, but like actually, it's Master Chief just wrecking everything, and it's nothing to do with him. He's the best part of that book, though. You're right, but he's easily the best part in my opinion. I think he's in the sequels. This is not Covenant, to be clear.
Yeah. These guys are just, I mean, there are people that got infected by space dust, and now they're zombies. They're just kind of mashes of flesh that move. There's a lot of different varieties. There's some that like contain little popcorn flood that like pop out and infect other people. There's some that just fight things. But they're a very dangerous threat. They nearly destroyed the galaxy twice.
More than twice, actually?
No, it was twice. They are pretty heavy and creepy. They are, yeah, these guys are some of the most terrifying parts of Halo, just in every game.
Halo's not technically a horror game, but there are some parts of Halo you think it is because of these things.
We'll get there.
It's actually really cool. This might
Where you have something day and introduce the humanity, they go together, and really what we do, and the plot,
And they usually win.
One thing about the plot that's really good is that there is not a single flood enemy type that fights in even a similar way to one of the Covenant.
Another thing is, and this was really creepy. This is like the really freaking creepy part to me, at least. In any of them that they appear, well, we were talking about the part earlier where in the first Halo, there'd be a full part where you walk in and there's Covenant and Flood fighting each other. The Flood usually wins against the Covenant if you don't kill them first. But the Covenant then start reanimating because they do weird infect shit on them, and then they start rising, and you're fighting them. And none of them are similar to a Covenant. It has their own AI. And in Halo, I think 2, they actually possess human soldiers as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So like it's the way that some of those combat forms like built in lives, some of them are humans, but like they never. Then there's the Forerunners. So this is the result of Lord Voldemort and Emperor Palpatine slash Pick. He's pretty good. It's so wonderful. These guys actually destroyed the galaxy. Yeah.
I think my uncle worked for Toyota, and that was nothing like a Forerunner.
Wait, those aren't the Prometheans?
That's a different thing.
Yeah, these guys actually destroyed the galaxy.
No, I would play. I don't think, wasn't it to stop the Flood?
Yeah, but it was, so the reason they had to do that was their thing was they fought a war with ancient humanity, and they didn't realize ancient humanity was running away from the Flood, and they killed ancient humanity right as they had found a cure for the Flood. So, and they're like, oh well, I guess, well, we'll just kill everyone. Yeah, it's okay.
Like, in terms of like millions?
Yeah.
For what?
Forerunners, how old they are? Really? I thought it was more. How'd they fight ancient? Whatever.
I mean, 100 days on right when Homo sapiens were studied.
Yeah, that's how we recorded. That's how we recorded.
Okay.
And we have the positrons. This was in a movie directed by Ridley Scott. It was intended to reboot the Alien franchise. Mixed results.
Yes, he's the major character in created the Need for Speed shooter in Congo.
So these guys are really
Why do they look
designed robots.
Now that I'm looking at them, why do they look like Ultron?
Yeah, no, design. Where they're just like really, there's just so much going on. Don't know what to look at, and it's not. I don't get it. It's weird.
These are them. No, it's not true anymore.
Yeah, apparently humans that recorded computer data, apparently that is no one saves. They put it in a robot.
What?
Yeah, that was the twist in the plot dump cutscene.
Yeah. For context, I only really played the first. Yeah.
Yeah, so okay.
Yeah, so the new Halo Wars here today because of this stuff.
But these guys are also a very good example of really bad game design, and we'll get to that when we get to Halo 4. Oh boy, that's gonna be a fun one. Oh, that's sad. There's the center just okay, whatever. So this is the next design will be very old. Go. So first destination, Earth. So Earth is the home of humanity.
I don't believe you.
I think it's blue. I'm not. I don't know. I just heard stories.
We're mostly water.
That doesn't make any sense. If you're mostly if it's mostly water, where do people can live? There's.
Oh man, I noticed this in the Splatoon cinematic universe.
And also, there's like a good possibility that it's flat. I don't.
Also, Antarctica might be an ice wall.
Yeah, this isn't a planet I'm very well acquainted with. I'm also about that. But this one's Planet Reach. Is in Halo. This is the most important planet after Earth. It's basically the big port.
This planet's very tragic.
This is it's a very important world, and there's a whole there was a whole ton of people living there. Probably the second most populated. This was also where the Spartans lived, and they grew up in their training.
Okay, so this is actually like a serious question. Because I own Halo Reach and Halo Fall Reach, but I have not played or read them because I don't
They're different stories.
There are different stories that happen kind of in parallel.
So I would say like I'm going to get to eventually, so not like full spoilers, if this is a spoiler question, but why do they call the planet?
There's the first planet that is settled by humans, so
So like it's a big deal, like culturally, technology-wise, a lot of technology research there, Spartan Jews were made there. It was a big deal.
Others planets like Ariel, which are just
They named it after the
yes, it was the font, not a set of dollars train.
Wait, is it spelled Ariel like this one? Ariel like
It's spelled Ariel like a set of dollars.
I thought it was Ariel, like the Disney character. I know. We remember it.
Oh, I remember.
We'll remember it.
It's now. Okay, I guess it's Halo.
Only took us 5 slides.
20. Yes.
There were 4 Halos earlier.
He's got a good point. All of them were Halos.
They were,
Oh yeah, that's right. Like John Halo.
what happened to Red Halo and Blue Halo?
Well, the YouTube right
We'll get there. We'll get there in Halo. So,
Wait. Oh yeah, we will.
so these Halos are worlds with a suspicious Earth-like ecosystem. I don't think it's ever actually explained why it's like Earth. I think the Forerunners trilogy might go into it.
I always thought it was like, only because they wanted an ecosystem that could sustain most forms of life, which just happens to be. I think that's the explanation as of now, at least.
Yeah,
Because there is deserts on there and everything else.
Interesting thing is all of the Halo, or at least Installation 04, I don't know about the other ones. Actually, no. I think it is just Installation 04. Has a environmental failsafe program for in case the flood the entire ring will like freeze over and have snow and everything to try and slow down the infestation. Which is why assault on the control room and betrayals and all that, but snow the flood out. Huh. Yeah. This, in the words of Sergeant Johnson, this is God's own anti-Silo bitch machine. It will, if you fire it, it is a super weapon that will wipe out all life in the galaxy. That's it. Yep. But also, in the words of Sergeant Johnson, it's also a giant movie.
Well, I don't think this is like the reason why they were created in the first place is basically to wipe out the idea, at least in terms of the old Halo trilogy.
So,
Okay.
In Combat Evolved, Halo was not supposed to did not wipe out the flood. It would have killed all sentient life except for the flood, and the goal was to starve it. And then in Halo 3, they retconned it so it would kill the flood so they could end the game. And then in Halo...
I thought that was only on the arc.
Well, and then in Halo Wars 2, they retconned it back again.
So I thought the arc was the only one that would wipe out.
No, so what it was is, technically, if you fire one Halo ring, it won't wipe out all life in the galaxy. It will just wipe out all life in the galaxy. And if you fire all of the rings at once, which you can only do from the arc, then it wipes out all life.
Including the flood.
Yeah. Well, not including the flood, because Halo Wars 2 got kind of bad.
Yeah, the idea is that it was a lot of food source.
But speaking of VR, this is VR. It is at Arc. It exists outside the Milky Way, and it's really, really big. Its diameter is about, from end to end here, is about that of Jupiter. And it just kind of floats out there. The point of it is to both contain the seeds of all sentient life in the galaxy, so that the youth of the galaxy can be repopulated after the Halos kill everything. And the arc can also be used to fire every Halo ring at once. So it's kind of a big deal.
Oh, should believe we're Halo.
Yes, it not only is where the Halo rings were built, if a Halo ring is destroyed, it is automatically rebuilt on the arc and then sent off into wherever it's supposed to go. And the last place is High Cherokee. It's our big old mushroom Death Star friend. This is the home of the Covenant. Everyone just kind of all live here. Excuse me. That's it. It's powered by a Forerunner tech. And that's how it's been managed to float around in space for like 2,000 years, I think it is. But there's a good chance that if some ancient zombies arrive on this city, they might just take it over and make it their home. It's not guaranteed, but it's just a possibility. Oh, okay, this is the last one. I forgot this exists. Honestly, I was distracted. There's they contain right here is the background, and it contains genocide and warlords. So whatever you do, don't wake it up. I mean, it's just the one, but still, don't wake him up. Oh wait, you did it anyway. Oops. So yeah, we got some games.
There's games in this franchise.
And this is what we're going to go through one by one of the games. Not just Halo as a franchise, but games in general. And we're also going to tap on the story and nice little game format. What's that?
Or there's a mostly game design.
There is short story. There's going to be short maybe story spoilers, but it's going to be game by game. So we're going to talk about kind of the first game first. Yeah. So, you know, spoilers for Toronto Ball. So, how about it starts up with the Pillar of Autumn, a big old ship escaping the Covenant from the fall of Reach, and they just zip through space to some coordinates that the voice command system in your Windows phone, Cortana, use.
I was going to bring up something kind of cool technology-wise that I actually really like. They randomize where they jump to try to lose the Covenant.
Well,
Randomized and try to lose the Covenant, but the Covenant usually is better with their jumps. So it usually doesn't end up work, but I like that that's the thing they try to do. Yes, they've always been. Yeah.
Battle circle.
These coordinates happen to lead to a mystical, magical ring, and
So something to bring up that I actually really like. It's a ring that like loops, and you're on the inside of the ring.
Yeah.
That's what the horizons look like.
Yeah.
I've always liked that. It's a nice little detail. I think they've said, I just don't remember the answer. They do. Also part of it is like, I think the energies of the beam that fires goes into the center.
It's an actual concept to make gravity.
Yeah. Goes on anyway. There's forests and mountains and shit on it, so yeah.
The story, of course, follows this little guy here, John Halo, as we mentioned before, Master Chief. He lands on this Halo ring.
John 117.
Yep. He's the only one in his escape pod who doesn't wear a seatbelt, so as the escape pod crash lands, he flies all over.
It is retconned, but he is the only survivor as a Spartan 2 from Reach. They say, but they didn't know what happened to Linda, like officially, I thought. So I thought until like Halo 2 they were saying, or Halo 3 actually they were saying. Sorry, Halo 1 I think they say that he's awesome.
Why he just goes by his military rank as a name?
It's
because he doesn't necessarily go by it. It's more that everyone calls him that.
From a game design perspective, they wanted the player to like feel like they were Master Chief, so they didn't want to say his name because if you weren't John, you're not gonna relate to him as much. It's the same reason why like they let you name all the links in Zelda Link or after whatever you want. It's just we know him as Link because that's the canon name. That's also why Master Chief didn't take off his helmet until like, or at least we didn't see his face until like Halo.
Yeah. So as they crash land, the Pillar of Autumn and the captain he is taking aboard this big old ship boy. Through reconciliation, he goes on there, and this is one of the best. Game is one of the best designed missions ever. It has
They're full of themselves. So. Something I should have mentioned way back with the prophets to go along more with the whole prophets being full of themselves. The prophets name themselves stuff like the prophet of truth, and like which is the leadership of the company. They name the prophet of truth. I forget the others. Yeah.
mean, even Rivers who had the mother of invention.
Point is, the Covenant was always full of themselves and loved to hear how they were going to go on their great journey. So,
Yeah.
the Halo books as a whole are pretty solid. Well, yeah, skip the flood.
But he discovers that these guys on the flood here are not in fact a weapons cache, and they decided to be free. And now the world, the entire galaxy is at stake. But don't worry, because Master Chief found out from Wheatley and Ghost, Navi,
Oh my god.
You know, that is to destroy the flood, you know, believes in this. He's one kid, you know. And they find out, and he goes through, he's just about to fire Halo, and Morales shows up and is like, hey, dumbass, this doesn't kill the flood, it kills everything but the flood. So, Wheatley gets mad, and they run away, and create a plan. But their plan is to go on board the Pillar of Autumn, overload its nuclear fusion drive, and blow up the Halo ring to kill the flood and the Covenant in the first place. So, Master Chief ends up going to Captain Keyes, who was infected by the flood, sadly, my man, to retrieve to be able to log into the Pillar of Autumn, for lack of a better word.
He's frantically on his hat.
They do that, and they blow up the ring, and everything's happy. And Cortana says that they're the only survivors. And then Halo First Strike, which came out like 3 months after, was like, surprising, we're the only survivors.
It's already something that is about one piece of the Halo.
I've always loved the physics of that explosion because it makes no sense.
This is official artwork. It's not artwork of Installation 04, that's for sure. Because this wouldn't be how it broke apart.
Actually, in the cutscene, too, so.
Yes, no, what they have is the one explosion happens, and it just kind of like breaks off inwards. But
Can we discuss my favorite line in First Strike, though?
what's your favorite line in First Strike?
How Sergeant Johnson doesn't taste good.
What else? Great.
For context, mild spoilers for Halo 1. Sergeant Johnson, I'll just do this quick. Sergeant Johnson gets eaten by the flood, but is in the next few Halo games. So the book retcons it as he just is alive. So he just doesn't taste good. They later give it a reason, but it's still like hilarious because he just has no idea why he's alive. Okay.
In the first Halo, we never see die off, and it was just assumed.
Yeah, you do legendary. That's awesome. So next up is a very nice segment featuring my computer that I like to call Halo literally changed everything. This game was a trendsetter. It was a landmark.
So the ultimate thing Halo did was make the FPS popular on consoles. So we can all recognize that. It was not the first console FPS, and I don't even think the classic go-to answer of GoldenEye is actually the first console FPS. But it, or do. But this was the one that made the FPS, made the console a platform for the FPS like popular. And in order to that, they need to get FPS controls to work on an Xbox controller. A lot of these people these days don't remember, but this controller is also way too big. Like way too big. It was made for people with giant hands. No one understands it. You have to go buy a small version of the controller. So first person, yeah. I say it's less. I mean, even so, like you could see the layout of the joysticks and all that. You could see what would later become the Xbox 360.
Your hands are supposed to go.
Yeah. So in order to get Halo FPS to work on consoles, you need to deal with the problem of aim, because that's the ultimate thing. It's easier to aim with the mouse pad than a gamepad unless you practice. And in order to get that to work, Halo, to varying degrees in different games, implements an aim assist system that works on 4 fundamental principles. Bullet magnetism, which literally curves the arc of bullets in midair to hit the target if you're close to it. Aim friction or reticle magnetism that basically slowly adjusts your aim towards the enemy. Snapping or auto aim, which basically is part of that, it basically moves your aim to the enemy. But unlike reticle magnetism is basically a gradual movement, while snapping is basically an instant movement. And aim acceleration, which is essentially when you start aiming, you aim slower, but if you keep the joystick in that direction, you'll start to move the aim faster. So to better explain reticle magnetism, the idea is that when you get onto an enemy, if you're targeting an enemy, your aim speed actually slows down. So you'll be able to notice that if you're spinning around, then suddenly just slowing down, you hit the target. It means that you're over an enemy target. And that means that it also gives you some fine control. So maybe you reach the enemy, and now you're going to make fine control to make sure it's a headshot. With these systems in mind, aiming can feel pretty good with the joystick. And a lot of these are also applied to PC controls as well. And most FPS games on consoles apply all these to different levels. Attached here is a video speaking with like.
You'll see a ton of different circles here. There's little cross here. I go over again, you know, and this other angle up here, this is the main system. We slow down the great speed. And the reason for that is that we will move forward and also, you're inside of the magnetic component. When you move what this thing does, the reticle will find all of the right. A little bit of a system. So it's trying to find that balance. Helping you enough. Right. If we do our job, actually have an idea. Yeah. Each problem has different settings.
So some people complain about this, saying that this shows that it shows that it's lowering the skew or whatever. But honestly, if this aim assist applies to everyone, so everyone has access to it. And it should be noted that like these can be applied differently to each weapon. There could be like a snapping when you're holding on the iron sights, and a few Halo weapons that have iron sights. Like who here has played Call of Duty just before or after? Well, you might notice that if you hold on the iron sights, it does an auto aim like this one. So this is fairly common in any FPS, really. But it's not just the aiming that had to be adjusted in order to make it work for consoles. Part of it is also that Halo introduced, well, it didn't introduce, but popularized the 2 weapon limits. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure, I do remember there being some computers somewhere that had a weapon limit, but maybe not 2 weapons. If it didn't introduce it, it's popularized it, and maybe it did introduce it. The idea here is that when you're holding out, is that John Halo can only hold 2 weapons at a time, the one he's currently carrying and one that he has in the back. So you have to keep searching for ammo, or you can keep changing weapons. But when you find a weapon, you have to put down another weapon that you're carrying. This is controversial, and I remember a lot of debates going on in the early 2000s about whether this was a good system or not. It meant that essentially weapons could be changed into bubble menu, but it was just a single button. And it also meant that essentially it acted as a soft class system where your abilities, where your sort of class abilities would be determined by the weapons you picked up. And it also meant that you'd have to make trade-offs, like you could decide I'll have a specific weapon, but not another weapon, and maybe later you wish you had that other weapon. And lastly, because the system, that meant that people can now fight over power weapons, weapons that are sort of better than the standard weapon, but are rarer, hard to find, and often have less ammo. So this is a system that helps facilitate that.
If you knew what the power weapons were, that became a battleground in the first 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Albeit in the first Halo, the power weapon was the pistol for some reason. Oh yeah, we didn't discuss that. For some reason, the first Halo, the most powerful weapon was the pistol.
From what I know, that was like a mistake that they forgot to correct, which is why it's not a thing later.
One other thing, this became such an important part of design that Half-Life 2 almost implemented a 2-weapon. I thought that was interesting. Another thing is that I popularized a melee-specific button, and that is usually before an FPS is when you're doing a melee attack, you're holding out a melee weapon as you would another weapon, and it would sort of act like a gun with a very short range. Halo made it popular that instead you hit a melee button and you'll hit them with the butt of your gun, or maybe you'll just punch, but it's not like you're putting down the weapon. You're just doing a melee attack with whatever weapon you have in hand. And it also popularized the idea of having a specific grenade button. Again, I'm not exactly sure if it's the one that created this idea, but in other FPSs of the time, the grenades were another form of weapon, a weapon with very limited ammo, and it's essentially you shooting a grenade by switching to that weapon and then throwing a grenade. But in Halo, there's a specific grenade trigger for grenades. So at any moment, you could just throw a grenade if you have one. So this is sort of like streamlining the FPS to work on the controller. So instead of having all the buttons you have on the PC keyboard, you can use to select weapons. Here, they just make it so you have a specific melee, a specific grenade, and that's just a button away. And that's just another way you can make something like Halo work on console controllers. It also, and this is another controversial one, introduced regenerating health. Who here thinks that regenerating health is a good idea in FPS? Who here thinks that it works for some games, not others, and that it depends on what the field of the game is? Who here thinks that regenerating health is always a bad idea? All right. Yeah, I think we sort of came around. I think a lot of games are actually going away from regenerating health, but the idea here is that Spartans, the other Halos, and certain Covenant enemies will have energy shields that you can break down by shooting at it, but will eventually recharge and come back fully. So that means that when you're damaged, you just need to take cover and get out, and then you'll be fully healed if you aren't shot again. Players no longer have to search for health packs, except for the first one. The first one sort of uses a dual system where you have a health that's revealed after your shield is out, but you're still recharging your shield.
I get it why you do that, but I kind of like that as a, if not best of both worlds, at least some of both worlds approach.
I think that's really probably later to get it.
I think Rachel's a
I
good
think
job there.
I'll explain that a little bit more when we get to those games. But
Yeah, I obviously not the most recent Halo games. Do they still use a combination of offense and shield, or is it just
Reach does,
no,
Joe.
it's just shields. Again, I'll talk about exactly what they use when we get to Halo 2. But
I was going to say, I like that it gave you an incentive to not risk as much as people do in some games that have essentially what would effectively be a longer shield that fully regenerates, while still giving you that freedom to advance the regenerating health shield gives you.
Should it be noted that Halo games tend to have a longer time to kill ratio than most other games like Call of Duty. When you start shooting at an enemy, a headshot usually isn't going to be a kill unless you're using a specifically powerful weapon. A headshot will do more damage, but won't be a kill right away. It might be enough to even destroy the whole energy shield, but you'll have to follow it up. So think about regenerating health under that context. No, a sniper is one headshot or 2 body shots. Yeah, it's in that close range, but at medium range, it takes a couple shots.
even when your shields are down, I think there are certain weapons that can't kill you. Most weapons can't kill you with a headshot.
Yeah. Of course, most of the power weapons, like the rocket launcher, will kill you when hit, but they're supposed to. So as for the multiplayer, Halo basically has 3 forms of multiplayer until Halo 5. There's local couch multiplayer, which is basically you and a buddy, up to 4 people, except in co-op mode, where it's only up to one other person, can just sit down and play Halo together using split screen. There's System Link. System Link essentially makes a LAN network out of your Xbox console, so you can connect several Xbox consoles together and have a 16-player game. And eventually, Halo 2 introduced Xbox Live support, which allowed people to play online, and that was one of the biggest contributions Halo made, brought online play to consoles and really popularized Xbox Live, which would become really important in the following years. And here's another thing, guys. You ever wonder why we're here? So just to be clear, Halo was not the first game that supported machinima. The first machinima I know about was actually from the 1990s. But it was one of the first machinima that almost hit mainstream. Well, it's one of the first machinima that really became popular on the internet. It started in the 2003. Red versus Blue is probably the most popular of the machinima that came from here, and it's still running to this day. Yeah.
Said that he had the idea of the story of versus Blue, and then originally did not involve Halo at all. But he saw Halo as the best avenue to execute it. So therefore, they used Halo. So if there was another game that would have been better, they would have used that. But there was just really nothing else at the time.
So what machinima is that if you're normally using computer graphics, you don't render it in real time, as in you create what the animation in computer graphics would look like, and then you set the computer to render it, and it will render frame by frame by frame. What machinima does differently is that there's already a real-time computer simulation going on, like say a video game, and then you record the simulation while it runs. So it's essentially sort of more like the real world, where the world doesn't stop until you turn on the camera, nor does the world wait for the camera to finish rendering or whatever. You're just recording it. So that's what makes video games an ideal platform for this style of movie making. And Halo became a very popular platform for this because it's pretty sandbox, yet the characters don't have moving mouths. They are wearing helmets, so you don't need to animate their mouths. There's actually quite a bit you can do in Halo, even the first one. And also, Halo had this trick where if you point the camera all the way down as a player, for some reason, your character will start looking forward with the weapon pointed down, almost as if he's pointing his weapon down while talking to someone. And it was part of essentially the online video revolution in the mid-2000s. It's easy to forget now, but before Let's Plays, machinima were one of the most important parts of YouTube and the internet. Yeah?
In the first season, it would look like they put it on like a live stream format because they had black bars.
Yeah.
So the reason for this, well, they really don't need the bottom black bar. They had a top of solidarity because they needed to hide the gun.
Yeah, so they used the letterboxing effect in order to hide the fact that the HUD still existed, and they didn't have a way of removing the HUD. Eventually, they found different techniques in order to make it less and less obvious. Well, in Halo 2, they finally found a way to remove the weapon and the reticle completely, and in Halo 3, they introduced the theater mode, one of the earliest theater modes in gaming, by the way. But, well, I shouldn't really say that. There were things called demos in gaming, and in fact, earlier Bungie games had demos. However, it's one of the earliest ones where they made it easy. You could move the camera with the Xbox controller, and then you could export to the PC via web service instead of connecting a camcorder to their Xbox, which is how I used to do it. So yeah. Anyone else remember any cool machinima back in the day?
I remember certain points where you can see the actual.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just like you were saying, they couldn't remove the HUD, so they just tried to pick the weapon with the least obvious reticle.
It's like there's sort of being where like their hands are down with the guns out there. They're in the position of holding the sword, but their hands was empty.
Yeah.
It's like talking like this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like.
All right, storytelling. I believe that's our section.
Yeah. So Combat Evolved like also isn't underrated in that they revolutionized. They actually revolutionized how stories were told. It kind of pioneered the whole cinematic storytelling angle of games. Whether you like that or you don't. At this time, it was kind of the new thing to have a game with a story that is constantly unfolding as you play. Either through communications with you, through things that you can see and interact with in the environment.
And it was more like an opera type thing. What in this here was like actually
before this, shooters were either based on properties or the president was kidnapped by ninjas. Don't rescue him. But it's like they're really it's pioneered like, oh, this game is actually
this pioneered.
But like even that environment
is it pertains in some way to the plot of the game, and that's really unique. They don't really use cutscenes very often, but when they do, it's usually very effective. So what I have here is a video. I don't know if you'll get always through it, but at least part of the way. This is that scene that someone was talking about. I'll just click.
there's a couple things that don't that, so
Where it's one of the best examples where they use all of these. It's apart from POC. It's like
So contrast this with the way Half-Life does its storytelling.
Half-Life 1 specifically. Half-Life 2, I think, actually borrowed a lot.
Well, Half-Life 2 still basically is and didn't have.
yeah, but notice the lack of background music and the low lights.
This is definitely just graphics and all Xbox programs.
Well, this is an old Xbox program.
So, but I don't know what Xbox programs.
Well, this is
But it's anniversary album.
Yeah. Which is the only way to play it.
I honestly suspect most of anniversary edition just switching back and forth every few days.
I wish I could have found the other guys when it's this level faster, but like.
Is he on legendary or is he just?
No, he's going too slow. He's enjoying it, okay? Yeah. Oh, what is going on?
I totally forgot that time we were running through Halo and the conference in a couple of years.
Yeah. And then, like, more than 10 years later, YouTube was that bar, that same bar.
This is great how influential this game is.
So like you actually see a lot of things I was talking about earlier. Like their AI is kind of insane and they all have very different roles. Each of the aliens.
And as you go through here, you notice this guy went totally the wrong way to see the cool stuff. But there's what's fire? Some dead bodies that you can kill. And you can, as you, the lights start flickering, because that's not a video thing, it's like the actual game. And like the further you go through this, the more it's like something's wrong.
Oh wow, I didn't do that.
Yeah, surely.
Yeah, even close, they have that if you try to talk to them like a person though.
Then there's like, there's the one thing. This one more is like,
There's like-
it's just like, it's more, it just gets more and more, it feels more and more wrong as it goes on.
If you're wondering, Halo, of course, they did kind of a problem where a lot of the rooms and levels were copy pasted.
Yeah.
It's significantly better than the next two games. Like, if you look through, it's not a problem at all.
Halo 2, they do it. It's not nearly as noticeable.
The extent of just having the same room for exorbitant amounts of time.
That also might be part of why I don't remember it happened.
And then there's Conduit 2, which doesn't usually have that problem. So the one level where they base the character, the in-game character comments on it.
What game is that?
Conduit 2.
Yeah.
Where
And
you
this is
just-
like, the question they play, that's probably the only example of a cutscene that happens in the middle of
In the first game.
should we know that their technology will make cutscenes for a lot of like a lot of the cutscenes were essentially that just playing the game, and yeah, cards and everything there. There's a whole documentary about the technology and tools that you're using for this game. Which is really interesting to people like me who are studying game development here. Gosh, this changes always dies. Some of the better things we've made. Like even in real life.
I mean, I think with Jenkins, he did first with that too. So that's where you sort of think that happened.
I mean, Leroy Jenkins didn't die, he was ruined as a game.
I think Leroy Jenkins died.
When he died,
Leroy Jenkins dies. That's the whole point of that.
Yeah, like, there's no way he survived that.
a lot more complicated than you might realize. I still don't know my keys is personally there. I really don't bring the captain of the ship with me on the way.
Right, well, let's get this going.
Or I suppose the ship is on.
It's a rank captain.
He needs the captain of the boat. So you might want to learn about that story and how you can't use that device again in a wall.
Another thing to note, that I don't know if this is the exact same level, but it's very similar as like the one that he was just walking through.
No, it's this is the room that you're currently in.
I meant like from a like actual theater room. Like I know it is supposed to be sort of like.
All that build up. Find the remains of the remains of the soldiers are gone.
And then the flood bursts through the door. And it gives you a reason to be scared.
What's up?
I would like to add on to the point about that is specifically in processes, where that's a big deal. Because the other thing that I'm sure at least some people remember from older games is games that would have, your in-game model, and then they make completely separate, high-quality models with pre-recorded testing. Which is actually still used even more recently on camera games. Yeah. Because then they actually have tools to, pre-render things all nicely. It's when you're doing things in the game.
So yeah, that's a pretty DLC. Actually, I do our opinions for chapter 2. I think that there's Zach, do you care? This is the story pretty much. Yeah. All right.
Let me know.
Sure. So Halo 2, we beat the Covenant on Halo. We're back on Earth. But there's a fleet. There's a Covenant fleet invading Earth. But something strange about it. Where are you? Something strange about it. And
What is it?
So the fleet destroyed, the fleet destroyed, times the suns. Yeah. Alright. But there's no time for that. We have to beat the cover a little bit, and then they run away, and we follow them to a second Halo. That's just how it is. You spend like no time on Earth, despite the fact that all of the trailers for the game took place on Earth. So it was a little bit disappointing for a lot of people when this game came out. The next part. Yeah. What's the name of Halo? Who cares? Because we're focusing on someone completely different who we've never seen before. An elite who is a playable character. Dishonored and tortured. He was actually the captain of the fleet that was fighting you in the first Halo game, and he failed. So he gets the zappy. But in his dishonor, the prophets think they can make use out of him and create out of the best general in the covenant, the Arbiter. And that's basically him. He's a playable character. He's really cool. He's honestly like one of he has a lot of depth. He goes through an arc about discovering the truth about his faith and placing his identity and placing his loyalty to his people over the loyalty to his, I guess, religion.
He's voiced by cheesesteak.
Nice. But as they are on Halo, both of them get on the second Halo together, and young Halo and the Arbiter are captured by this giant penis. The Flood, which are here, I guess, for some reason. They don't really explain it, even in the terminals. It's just kind of there. And he's taken over the entire ring, and he wants Master Chief and Chief and Arbiter to stop the ring from firing and killing him. So, but this guy, Tartarus, wants to fire the ring and start the great journey. Because he is given this higher rank in the Covenant because the Prophet of Truth would really like to get rid of the elites, because the elites are smart and not, smiley hairy dude with a big hammer. But he really wants smiley hairy dude with a big hammer to be in charge of the Covenant. So he decides to arrange to kill the entire second species, which of course doesn't work, because how could you even do that? And so the elites end up splitting off from the Covenant, and the brutes become the ones in charge. Tartarus tries to fire the ring, but is stopped by Sergeant Johnson. My love, Sergeant Johnson, and that's what the game ends. The fire sequence fails, and Master Chief is going to finish this fight, and that's where the game ends.
Doesn't he jump off?
He jumps on the Forerunner agenda, and then he just jumps off in between games. Anyway, I'm gonna.
He literally drops onto Earth. Okay.
So can we please figure out whether the Robin Fall damage is a thing that we need or not?
I don't think it is. Like officially.
Yeah.
Even
So.
Yeah, there was something, and then Halo 2 changed it.
Yeah, the stuff is they added wielding. It's
Wait, that is 2 or all?
that was just 2.
Which one is it? Yeah.
Anyway,
So they were dueling. It was a really cool mechanic to be added.
All right, but
it's impossible to balance. It's just impossible to balance.
so this is actually part of something that they seem to think was a mistake. They removed the old machine gun from Halo and instead replaced it with essentially an assault rifle. Actually, what's called the assault? The battle rifle, which is a controlled burst rifle and an SMG. No, they basically replaced it with two weapons, the SMG and the battle rifle. And the battle rifle is one where you scope in and it's only far away targets, and the SMG is one you're encouraged that only makes sense if you're dual wielding. And they said that the main go-to weapon of Halo should be one where you can use grenades and melee at the same time. You can't do that if you're dual wielding.
Because dual wieldable either had to be really good by itself so you don't have to dual, so you can use it without dual wielding, or it had to be, or to keep it from being broken when you dual wielded it, you had to make it so it was really underpowered when you just use one.
And the needlers were,
Needlers are an example of a form.
yeah,
These things used to be terrifying.
they're still terrifying. They just are no longer dual wieldable. Thank God.
So the other, and probably one of the greatest contributions Halo made was the matchmaking system. So it used to be that in early online play, you would use direct IP connection in order to find multiplayer servers and people to play with. So that means that, and occasionally you might get a server list. That means that essentially you're sort of need to already know who you're going to be playing with, or it's a shot in the dark who you're going to be playing with. But with Halo 2, they implemented a system of connecting players with servers. That means that players can be connected together based on location, rank, what they actually want to play. In Halo 2 also gives you the ability to choose from playlists. Like, do you want to play deathmatch, or do you want to play capture the flag? Or do you want to play like a big game with 16 players, or a small game, or maybe even a 2v2 or 1v1? You would be connected to other players and then brought to a dedicated server or to a peer-to-peer server. I don't quite remember, but it will streamline the whole peer-to-peer setup for you. It will streamline the whole finding a server thing for you. And you'd play a game, and you could there'd be a lobby before the game when you can play the game, and then you can decide whether to stay with those people or not, or become friends with them. Not only does this mean that you are more likely to find players that you're well suited to play against, you're also more likely to find love.
And the matchmaking.
What?
The matchmaking is Elo.
Elo?
It's the current it's based off like this guy who uses a chest.
No, I don't. It used a system called TrueSkill. I'm not sure how it works in the back end, but it's basically like you gain experience by playing games, you gain more experience from winning than losing. So eventually winners will gain higher ranks. There will be groups of people who also have higher ranks.
There is a back end to like your skill level. Like,
Yeah.
Is an algorithm that takes a sum total of your stats. It assigns you a number from like 1 to, let's say, like 10,000. And someone has a 10,000 elo is like the top 0.01% of the world.
I don't think that was
Well, the concept was a thing for chess. The games that started implementing now, I don't know what this was personally.
Well, this was one of the early matchmaking systems, so they evolved it over time. Halo still uses a matchmaking system much like the one introduced in Halo 2, but they definitely made modifications to it over time. So players can also create friends lists. This is one of the first console-based friends lists. And also it had clan support, where basically it made it easy for clans to play together, and clans wouldn't need to run their private servers. I was in a clan for 1 week, and I'm never talking about it again.
I was in plan for Battlefront.
I'm sorry.
I think it was Battlefront 2, to be clear.
Oh, but then it's fine.
Yeah, so this is Halo 3. So next is Halo 3. There's story stuff, story stuff and gameplay stuff. There's not a lot of gameplay stuff for Halo 3, but you know. So this is Halo 3.
we're actually at the time. If you guys know that afterwards, you know, we technically have.
I tried watching a Let's Play of Halo 5 in prep for this, and I stopped because I was trying to understand what was happening.
So, Halo 3, the aliens are the good guys now, and there's RB, and he's an RB. RB is with John Halo now, and they're friends, and they do basically absolutely nothing for half the game. This is literally half the game, nothing happens in Halo 3. It's my favorite Halo game, but holy damn.
No, they look for Cortana and get nothing out.
First mission, they just look for Johnson who got crashed in the Pelican during that mission. They solve a problem that happened at the start of the mission, and then nothing else happens to really lead. And then they get the second mission, they escape from a base that they went to, solving another problem that was just started in that mission to
I think the government attacked the base while they were there.
Yes. And
I played a lot of Halo.
Mission 3 is just driving to the place where things happen. Mission 4 is just go through this really long gauntlet of enemies to destroy an anti-air battery. And the first plot important thing that happens in Halo 3 happens after Mission 4 when the portal to when this thing appears, and this is a portal underneath Africa to the Ark. Yeah. So they go through the portal. Also, like, some flood come through and they kill them, and the elites kill them by blasting half of Africa. And that's a thing that happens, and they kind of just forget about it. And they go through the portal, they go to the Ark, and yeah,
There he is, the prophet of truth.
yeah, Prophet of Truth, who at this point is the only surviving prophet, also went through this portal with the goal of firing the ring. Meanwhile, with firing all of the Halo rings. Meanwhile, the Flood go through this portal, or the Flood don't actually go through this portal. It's never explained how the Covenant get to the Ark. To this day, we do not know how the Covenant got to the Ark. They did not go through the portal on Earth, because the entire city of High Charity would have had to go through that, and if it did, Earth would have been infected.
No, High Charity did. In the cutscene, High Charity flying overhead and getting into the portal.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
It does not. I played this game way too many times. I know this.
High Charity flying through that.
High Charity, what is it? No, High Charity comes out of a slip space gate when you're on the Ark. It comes out of a slip space gate at the end of Mission 6. It does not go into the portal, because if it did, then it would have been already out on the other side by the time you got it. Anyway, so the Flood is there. And also, there's a small squad led by Master Chief and the Arbiter. Yeah, an Arbiter and his elite friends, and they're trying to stop the array from getting fired. Because the Flood's there, the Flood are bad. So eventually, they kill Truth and they stop the ring from firing. But they stop the rings from firing. But there's another problem. The Flood are still there, and they're like infecting everything. So in order to escape from the Ark, that's the word. They need to use this new development. Remember that ring from the first Halo game? getting built again in the Ark because that's how that works. And the plan becomes, if we can fire this halo ray, then it should kill the flood. Even though, Halo Combat, even though the first game said that it didn't kill the flood.
I thought it was
Like,
supposed to be all the flood on the Ark.
Yeah. You remember the Ark is outside of the looking in.
Yeah, I don't think that may have been what it was supposed to do, but
It's still
it's still a retcon, which by the logic of the new show, of the new showrunners, I mean basically that. That means it wasn't one of those.
was a flood in Halo 5.
No, the flood was
Every morning.
You see, they wanted to make Halo a TV franchise.
Also, what was when
Well, I thought it was when Bungie was ending the franchise.
yeah, when was destroyed in this, it crashed onto the Ark, and because it doesn't destroy the flood, or because it doesn't actually destroy flood, it did kill the flood, and the Ark's quarantine protocols like sealed away high charity and flood. So it's just this big ass bubble that it doesn't
God.
works too. The banished cracked
It's a kind of
yes, it's a cool DLC.
fair.
Yeah. So they fire the ring and they get away, but not without losing our beloved Master Chief because he died. They never made any more games.
They never. That's the ending for the franchise to me.
No, it was like goes back in the
And he never woke up ever again. Humanity didn't need him. They never needed him. Everything was happy.
If you want to look at a game as a perspective and how to make a badass final mission, look no
Holy
further
shit,
than
yeah.
this game.
So
you're
are they
driving-
all
you're
used?
You're driving.
You open up, going through these snow control rooms that you went to in the first Halo game. That same
Also-
It's like poetry, it rhymes.
yeah.
And you do a Warthog run in Halo 1 as well, just for a completely different reason. It's not, but.
And once you travel around suspiciously, when you zoom out in theater, you discover that this thing you're going on is very strangely shaped. Then you put it next to the island from the Silent Cartographer mission in Combat Evolved, and you realize they're the same. So there are so many callbacks in that final mission. You don't like embellish. They're just there because that's where you are. You're on the ring in the first game. This is what would be it. And then you go through that amazing final Warthog run, and it's just as driving, and you make that jump into the
You're driving
dawn, and
Like you're pedal to the metal, armor is on the turret, shooting everything in sight. The music is pumping to your ears. It's like,
also, Instant the Orchestra is doing performance of Finish the Fight from Halo 3, so after that, you should check that out on the 97. I don't actually have an interest in them, but I like they're cool. So, Halo 3 changed
Like, yeah,
it didn't have lore,
No, those are two generic.
unfortunately, unfortunately, it was really anything. It was just kind of a thing that it wasn't really a good match for it. And 4 is like immediately.
Oh.
Yes.
Halo 4 is amazing.
But yeah, Halo 3 and like, it just kind of made everything there a little bit better. There's purpose. Yeah, no, yeah, that's kind of what it's supposed to do. It is astonishing how much effort they put into you can find this online. There's a 200-slide PowerPoint presentation by Bungie about their thought process for increasing the delay in sniper rifles.
Wait, just about that?
Yeah, just about that. 200 slides. It is the best GDC lecture ever. It is astonishing how much thought they put into it.
Maybe that's why Halo 3 is easily my favorite. At least gameplay wise. I mean, Reach made me cry.
Well, when the final mission of the game just tells you to survive. Wait, what?
Reach is so.
Halo Reach follows our favorite band of this is the wrong image. All of these guys, they're a real team. They die.
You guys remember Rogue One?
Yeah. So
There's a common theme here. Rogue One.
Everyone dies except for Jude. Jude goes on to create to start the Spartans forward. That's pretty cool. But yeah, that's the game.
Yeah, the game leaves you feeling like he's probably dead.
Also, if the last mission is just an endless wave as it reaches to being destroyed, and you loading your assault rifle, going, "I'm gonna kill some company as long as I can live." I dare it feels just by looking at these.
Yeah, almost every single character that dies is being dead. Even like people will complain about how some cats dead.
That's war, baby.
That's the point of the scene.
The whole point is just to hammer in on
Everyone, for the most part, gets like, most of them get like sacrifices, but yeah. But the whole point was a sacrifice to try to help them win, and they still lose. But
yeah,
there's a while, for a while, which is my favorite. Oh, yeah. You're right. I think it was because they added the other thing on this slide, which is the power-ups.
It reminded people a lot of classes from Cole, creative classes from Cole.
No, yeah, that was the reason I did is just because they called it.
So the thing to note here, and this is the big like distinction between this Halo and other games. Everyone has these loadouts on every, like you automatically.
In Reach, it's not as bad as in Halo 4, where it's
But, you know, that's why I think it could be effective. But more importantly, we have spring. So there are people who have gone on and on and on and on and on about spring and why it's good and why it's bad and why it might not actually impact the game's the design, or why it might not actually negatively impact the games as a whole. There is always going to be more of sprint is a necessary normalization because it makes you feel better versus sprint doesn't belong, you know, and it's honestly the controversy itself is the reason that I'm upset about it. It isn't even any of the functions about it. Like, it is true that having sprint in the game means that max time is growing, and it also like, but conversely, what that means, also regular code has to be reduced to make it better. But that said, the thing that is easy to ignore is in like one of the tenets of the design is really matter what it actually is. It's more what it feels like is more important. So it doesn't actually make the game faster, it makes the game feel faster. Anyway, I'm not going to
I mean, I argue whether or not you need to make that match bigger than a strike because Call of Duty doesn't. Call of Duty doesn't really. I mean,
Just real quick, I personally feel like sprint wasn't the end. Like I know I've talked to you about that. I stopped after 4. Sprint.
4. But
basically, my thing is like sprint wasn't the thing that made me quit. It was specifically on Untitled because sprint on its own, I kind of viewed as literally everyone else is doing it. They have to.
Yeah.
To compete, loadouts. There's plenty of games that don't use loadouts. There are still shooters, multiplayer shooters. Not as many as not really popular ones, granted, but like it's still a thing.
Yeah.
Sprint though is a very big mechanic now.
It is a mechanic. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
When I complain about it.
Like, oh man.
So, I'll put my animations on here. Anyway, so Halo 4. This is a game. So Halo 4 has 2 plots going on. There's the main plot, which is this, and there's the actual plot, which is the next.
This part of the plot.
This part of the plot is stupid. So he wakes up and he lands on planet Requiem, where he finds this radio signature that's coming from this big, angry-looking orange ball. And she thinks, alright, this must be a comms relay. Well, turn it on! And then he wakes up angry Forerunner and wants to kill everyone. So he does that, and he wakes up and tries to kill everyone, but Master Chief finds a really big human ship that just kind of was there, and they kind of cuts around for a little bit, and then he gets off the planet after he finds out that the angry Forerunner warlord, the Diet, really wants to get his hands on the composer. This isn't actually the composer, this is his ship, which is like bigger than that star. But it's 385. I think it's 400.
It's like 285. So 5 will be.
It's just long.
I felt like even this design though is so.
Yeah.
Like that's a good way I think to explain my feelings towards Halo 4 part.
Mm-hmm. And most of the plot is kind of just dumped on you in one cutscene that's like halfway through the game.
And it's like a 16-minute cutscene.
It's not
16, I said. But Metal Gear Solid can at least pause my cutscenes. And you can't turn. I don't think you can. It is the definition of an dumb, and it makes no sense.
Which is the plot about Cortana, who is, after 7 years, experiencing rampancy, which is not introduced out of nowhere. This was a thing in, I think,
They hinted at it in Halo 3, and it's talked about in several of the books.
So, who here knows that Bungie in fact existed before Halo? So, for reference, Bungie created a trilogy of first-person sci-fi shooters for Halo, for the Mac of all things. I sort of like the Mac's answer to two. And in this series, called Marathon, it's a 60 sci-fi series, very similar to Halo, but it introduces the idea that AI are these marketable to become rampant, where they are smart but crazy and start to do terrible things. So this is sort of a reference to a series of games that no one has played.
So
the actors.
they actually, because I told you, I like on the nervous, it's actually mentioned in the first.
Oh, all right.
It's mentioned really early. It actually might be briefly mentioned. Remember, but I know
First Service came out after Halo 3, so that was
And they mentioned, I believe, the first time this 7-year rule as well.
Yeah.
all right, that's interesting.
And so yeah, they even say at that point, like, they kind of implied the rampancy should have happened earlier, because they say Cortana's been in service for like 10 years now.
Well, as of Halo 4, she says that she's been in service for 8 years.
It might be the sort of like a hibernation thing.
Yeah, they weren't counting hibernation.
Yeah, Master Chief is in his, like, numerically, he's in his late 50s, but biologically, he'd be in, like, his early 30s because of cryosleep not aging you.
Yeah, I think not counting cryosleep, she was in.
I mean, she wasn't in cryosleep.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Anyway.
because they go into like a.
Yeah, well, the idea of the rampancy, as they talk about it in Contact with Harvest, is it's like an AI it's something like an AI begins to become self-aware. They are able to notice the limits of their own programming and subconsciously write themselves out of their own programming, which essentially splits up their mind into multiple personalities.
Actually, a little bit in Halo 2 because there's things she can't do that she was able to do.
Yes. And this usually happens after 7 years for a standard UNSC AI, and after 8 years in service, it starts to happen to Cortana. She eventually just starts descending into insanity, but Master Chief decides that, well, because Cortana is it was created from human DNA.
It's based on the human mind of Halsey, who created the Spartans, so he used Halsey as a bit of a mother figure.
Mm-hmm. So, Chief believes that because of that, she might have a way to fix Cortana. But unfortunately, they don't get it because of the main plot with the Didact. They don't get to Earth in time. And Cortana splits herself up in order to stop the Didact and upload the last of herself into the Didact's ship and dies. It's when you think that she's actually dead, the ending to this game is really, really sad. Like, it is probably one of the sadder scenes in games in general, just from the acting alone.
Let me put it this way, I was basically angry the whole time I played Halo 4, and then during that scene. Like, literally, I was angry the whole game, and then I was like, I'm done.
Oh my god. Yeah, so that's Halo 4. And now we're going to go into how so this isn't the only reason, but this kind of is indicative. And this is going back to the Prometheans from the start of the mission. So you notice how at the top, all of these elites here are brightly colored. Their armor design is very distinct and different. You can see the weapons that they're holding. It's very easy to tell one thing from another. And then you look at these guys, and they're just silver and orange. Boy, are they sure silver and orange.
And it's even,
you can't see any of their weapons. What this is supposed to be is like these little effects are supposed to indicate what their weapons are. But unless you've played the game against them already and you know what, and enough to know what each of them are supposed to stand for, you're not going to know that. It's not nearly as intuitive as just seeing the gun.
it's also supposed to be a Forerunner design, and after doing 3 games of you going through Forerunner buildings, I never got that. Like design-wise, these do not feel like Forerunner designs. Slightest. Yeah.
Forerunner designs are not always brutalist, because you look at Halo 2, and that was a lot more, it was not necessarily brutalist. It took a slightly different angle to it, but they all had that sort of cathedral type angle to it.
Yeah. Well, like, even the colors are completely mismatched. They really, like, orange is not a color in any of the Halo worlds, like artificially.
Yeah, orange is not a color. Like, I get that that's supposed to indicate these guys are corrupted in their service, just like insane. But
Don't they have the same color scheme in 5 though?
they're orange instead of red, and that's also stupid. But like before, like in the start of the game, before they're controlled by the Didact, they're blue, which, you know, is a cool little plot thing, but also in that hard to just silver and blue.
But even so, like,
it's a cool plot thing, but it's nothing to do with the game.
I'm not even also just talking about that. The silver they use isn't even close to the silver or dark gray or whatever in the Halo.
Yeah. And the other one's a lot more like bluish sort of hue, and this one's a lot.
This will actually, I wasn't joking, but like this actually is like generic Ultron robot.
This is what all of the Forerunners and just orange and silver. Only it doesn't, it's all over design. Too many pieces on all of these.
Another thing, just I look for all day. At least gameplay wise. The weapons, which I don't know if you're actually going to talk about, are actually copy paste another weapon.
They are either copy paste another weapon that either makes them just better versions of that weapon or just worse versions.
And
But if you more specifically, the light rifle is just a better battle rifle and a better game because it's just both in one.
like, I
The
think
inspiration cannon is just better.
every weapon, like, and granted, there is some Covenant weapons that are copies of human weapons, vice versa. But that happened more as the games went on. Their design at the core, though, has very different methodologies and everything else we look at it. Like, there's a whole thing of, like, I think the Covenant weapons just in general damage shields more.
Yeah.
But, like, even besides that, the actual designs are weird. And a plasma rifle only is a copy of the SMG because they added the SMG in Halo 2. Mm-hmm. And even that, they're not even different. They're very different weapons in a lot of ways.
Exactly.
But none of these are even unique in the slightest.
And the worst offender is the bull shot, which is just a worse tool, except it's all except when you hold down the trigger, it's a shotgun you can spawn with.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's got a shorter range than the actual like, you spawn with it and it's just a one-shot kill when you're in your face. It's insane. And there's also, so they're basically just all direct analogs of another enemy type. You don't have to use. So like the Promethean knight here is just an elite that can teleport and also one
And it's not even
more buttons to you in one shot.
And it's not even that different because the elites can turn invisible in the early Halo games.
Yeah.
So like they didn't feel that different.
Yeah. The grunts are just little crawlers. And like the crawlers are just grunts that can climb the walls. That's it. And watchers, they don't copy another enemy type. Because these guys just exist to make your life hell. They block the shots. They throw back the grenade. And if you kill a knight, when these guys are alive, they'll bring them back from the dead.
So that ends up being the thing that you have to focus your fire on, while everything else is trying to kill you.
It does what it does, means you do not have another option other than to prioritize this. If you don't prioritize that, it 100% of the time makes your life worse. And these guys can just spawn them forever. It's maddening how they thought this was acceptable. But so Halo 4, there was no Halo 5. They never released a fifth Halo. They never released a fifth Halo game. Never did. There was really quality. It didn't advertise anything at all. Actually wasn't Halo 5, but that podcast basically wasn't me to advertise any games. It had nothing to do with this game. None of the marketing for this game had anything to do with this game.
Did it have to do with Halo Infinite though?
No!
Wait, it did?
Like when I first saw this person's helmet, I was like,
I know there's
They took over. Oh yeah, they took over during the production operations or something.
Before was the first Halo game that didn't have Bungie involved.
Yes.
yeah.
But 343.
So Halo 5 follows the story of 8 Halos. There were 4 Halos that we talked about before, and then there's 4 new Halos. And out of all,
And one of them's Nathan Fillion.
yeah, one of them's Nathan Fillion, because Nathan Fillion was in other games. So this leads to a record total of 8 playable Halos in Halo 5. They can't even get the number right. But
Were there 5 Halo rings at least?
no.
God damn it!
And out of all 8 of these characters, the 2 that have any personality whatsoever are the ones that were in games before this. So John Halo and Nathan Fillion.
Really? With the
No, they are just voices. They don't have any
because that was the one thing I was excited
Every one of them. Yeah, everyone. Fireteam Osiris is basically disbanded, and they're kind of just.
Is logical. Wait, did they merge Bioshock? So what's Halo 7 gonna be? Halo Infinite 2?
So Halo 5 is the story of these two people chasing a rabbit chase on Planet Master Chief for 3 missions out of the 12. The game is the shortest campaign out of the entire franchise, even though they said it was going to be longest. That's just myself talking. So they chase each other, and that's that for all of their characters. This squad's entire dynamic is they are following Master Chief.
And Nathan Fillion makes a joke.
Well, Nathan Fillion makes a joke sometimes. It's true.
Master Chief has gone AWOL.
Yeah, Master Chief has gone AWOL. So the
Which,
actual
by the way, doesn't make sense already.
Yeah. Well, the idea is here he has a vision that seems to be Cortana to go to the planet Meridian. So they go to the planet Meridian. These guys go to the planet Meridian. And Chief gets away, and they go to San Helios because they think that they'll know where the Arbiter.
I watched like 10 minutes.
So what's actually going on is there, throughout in different planets in the galaxy, these over-designed monstrosities called the Guardians are just showing up, along with this dude, Warden Eternal. He doesn't.
Wow, that's actually the most uninspired design.
Yeah, you fight him like 12 times.
I've never seen a more uninspired humanoid robot.
This guy is admittedly the best boss in the Halo franchise. However, as the Halo franchise, like 5 bosses, only if you count the Scarab, this guy is the best. If you don't count the Scarab, this guy is the best. Which of course is why you fight him like 12 times. But it's 6 times in one mission. But so these things are waking up all over the galaxy, and Master Chief goes AWOL. So they gotta figure out what's causing these, and they also have to find Master Chief. And nothing happens until like the last 2 missions of the game, when surprise, it's Cortana. She didn't die, and now she's evil. God, it's like we're in a Marvel comic book. So yeah, apparently when she uploaded herself to the Didact's computer, she also accessed the domain, which is basically just the Forerunner internet. And she learned from
the domain of the Covenant internet.
No. She got the Covenant internet in the first game. This is the Forerunner internet.
Oh man.
So she discovers that by browsing up Wikipedia articles on Forerunner Wikipedia, she discovers apparently how to cure rampancy and uses that as a bargaining chip to send word out to the entire galaxy's AI it's actually AIs that are meant to reclaim all of the Covenant technology, and she woke up our Forerunner technology and not the humans, and that's why she woke these things up, because apparently these things are security robots that kill planets, and
Forerunner tech-wise, a security that kills planets is pretty important norm.
Yeah, and like they've been hinting about Guardians of Halo 3, kind of. It's like a concept for a design of it in one of the multiplayer maps. But
wait, if the Guardians, when this is travel time, it's like when he's using the light as a weapon.
This isn't Kingdom Hearts.
No, we use light as a weapon.
In all the Halo games, if you are
not the same guard. They're confirmed to not be the same guard.
No, it's the Guardians of Destiny warping into reality.
I didn't know Destiny, Halo, or Kingdom Hearts were the same franchise.
Yeah, it's a
But
thing.
anyway,
Like,
like,
the Halo 3.
like, so there's kids that like might not actually biologically from the flood.
She does look different. Like,
I mean, yeah, she's wearing like she's wearing everything. She's also got a message on her. I don't know it, you know, it's kind of it's one of it might be the technique for that symbol. I could be wrong. But yeah, so she seals Master Chief in a cryptum because she's like, yeah, I mean, well, if you're not with me, then you're my enemy, and
she's a Sith Lord!
and she locks him away. When I change the world, you're gonna wake up in 500 years, and you're gonna see how good my new world is.
So what causes John Halo to wake up on a Halo ring?
Good question.
What causes John Halo to wake up on a Halo ring?
She started a world record, started a galaxy by revolution revolving around the galaxy. And decided,
Are you using the Halo ring to kill the AI?
it is hinted that there's also all of the Halo rings.
That's dumb.
We're talking about esports. Esports.
This isn't Dota.
No, we're not talking about MLG. We're talking about how Halo 5 did not stop that esports. The entire design philosophy around Halo 5's controls and
John, you didn't even put 5 esports.
That's 6.
There's 6 esports. It was for Halo 5. You could have done it. You could have done what Halo couldn't do.
anyway, yeah, everything about it, from the controls, from the marketing, from the level design, was all about promoting an extremely homogenized version of extremely homogenized esports arena fast-paced shooter. That was what it was from the beginning. There is sprint that is now front and center. You have a thruster pack that can move you in any direction. You have stabilizers that can make you hover in midair for a little bit. You can ground pound on the ground, and there's a Spartan charge people think is a really bad addition, which it's not, because it's literally just balancing the melee attack while you're sprinting. Because if they didn't have it in the game, then you could just sprint up to someone, punch them, and then punch them again. You do the double punch, which people complain about. Yeah, they also started their esports league of Halo Championship Series. So, yeah, they started that, and it's a thing, and it's a pretty decent sized esports league. It's not like Overwatch or anything. And they did Halo 5 also like advanced Forge a lot. This is probably the most advanced in-game level builder to date. It is insane. There's scripting in it now in Halo 5. I've seen people make other games. Yeah, this is like Little Big Planet levels of level design. This is honestly bigger than that. It's probably Halo 5's best feature. It is Halo 5's best feature. It's also the only version of Halo 5 you can get on PC. It's free, so it's great.
They made power.
And then the last thing, there's also a lot of books, and there's some shows. There's Forerunners, and there's Halo Nightfall. None of the shows are really that great, but the books are pretty hit or miss, but some of them are really good. I've read Contact Harvest and Forerunner Trilogy is okay. Content Harvest is pretty good. Halo the Flood is really bad. Don't bother reading that. It's just play the first game and you have Halo the Flood. Yeah. So we're like way over time. We gotta turn this over to Hammer real quick so we can do some quick ending announcements.
Like 3 for 3 trying to blow up everyone else. Because like Windows went from like 7 and 8 and it skipped to 10. All of went from 24 and it skipped to 76. So 3 for 3 just went like wasn't after 5 infinite.
Microsoft already did it. They lost.
Its software went from Doom to
Oh, John, you're right. Microsoft did do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but its software did it in 2 games. It went from Doom to Doom Eternal.
Okay, so super fast because we don't have enough much time left. I didn't mention it in the opening announcements, but next week we're going to be doing PowerPoint karaoke. PowerPoint karaoke is this really fun thing where someone comes to the front of the room and presents a PowerPoint that they've never seen before in their life, and they have to present it like they not only made it, but they're an expert in the topic. If you want to help us by making your own PowerPoint karaoke and potentially making it as crazy or wacky as you want, we pushed the due date back from last Friday to this Friday. So you can make that in preferably Google Slides and then just push it forward and send it to us, and we'll be sure to look over and make sure that it's all appropriate, and you'll be able to see someone struggle to present it next week. So yeah, that's basically it. Woo! Star. Yes. Okay. Is that a question? You need to submit it to that one. Email it right there to us. True.
Yeah, I'll give you if you're interested in helping guys for check it out on Friday. Also, check Slack.
And if I want to talk more about Halo, is there a Slack channel for gaming?
There is a Slack channel for gaming. It's on the Slack channel for gaming. I'm a little tired. I think that's yes. Okay. Star.